And welcome to the Brit Show. We have an absolutely crazy show for you tonight, filled with the extremism of time. Oh, you're in for a treat. So put the show on. And welcome to Oslo, Norway, to our IP-based studio here in the basement of our HQ. And we have quite a show for you because we're going to talk about time, something that is fairly important in the accuracy of broadcast production. And time's been with us since the, well, beginning of time. Wow, wouldn't you believe it? And of course, we do have our fantastic friend here, Marius. How are you doing, Marius?
Not too shabby, actually.
I say, we're very
I'm here to talk about time and watches. Why shouldn't I be happy?
You know, that's exactly what you're doing. You are our official timekeeper and, of course, a senior watchmaker.
Yes, I am.
So, obviously, we are also going to talk about time within broadcast realm, but it's kind of useful to start with a bit historic kind of past here, because time's been with us since forever.
Yeah, the measurement of time has
that's more like it.
Improved vastly.
I can imagine.
Over time.
Yeah.
Time, or the perception, the whole thing with the dial and how to make the calendar divide day in hours, blah, blah, blah. As far as we know, the Sumerians, 2,000 years ago, and the Egyptians, which we know a bit more about, they, of course, you had the sundial, you had the water clock, and blah, blah, blah. And
water clocks are not that interesting in a studio environment these days, maybe.
No, but, you know, up until like around 1400, 1500, when people really start to travel on a larger scale, you had the whole standardization of time.
Of course. Became
a thing. And yeah, you know, Greenwich, the observatory at Greenwich, they had the time ball on top of the building, so all the boats or ships lying on the Thames, loading up and traveling around the world. They synchronized their marine chronometers on board with a ball.
Exactly, so that
they could navigate, use the longitude.
But you know, to talk about practical instruments, because time was, of course, extremely useful when it was the same for everyone.
Yeah.
So I know that you brought some interesting samples here. I can see one very close here.
Well, before you had the standard time for like universal time, we call it Earth time or whatever. You had tower clocks from late 1300 with only an hour hand. Yeah. But it was the only clock in the village, so everybody was synchronized to that one.
Absolutely.
So, 1700, the marine chronometers came.
Because again, as you mentioned, it's pretty important to have accurate time when it comes to navigation, or else you really do not have a reference.
Yeah, so there were some serious incidents with the Royal Navy in the late 1600s, and so they actually had a competition, a chronometer competition, with a grand prize of £20,000.
In 1600s?
Yeah, that was later 1720 or something. I think it would be equivalent to £2 million today.
Yeah.
So
important, you can say.
That was the first taste of what you need precision outside local time, or a standardization, to call it. And well, yeah, I brought a
this is pretty
British little thing today, made by Graham in London. This is late 1700s. And you can see it has only the hour hand.
Yeah, because no minutes.
No, you didn't. really didn't matter. And the precision isn't, by a normal wristwatch standard, it's not that good, but well, nobody knew if you were 15 minutes late. So, yeah, of course, these things were made by hand. And,
but it's kind of awesome. So basically, this was one of the first examples where you can actually have something in your pocket.
yeah, that was actually
Quite accurate.
useful.
Yeah.
You could see them first mid-15th century, but it was a toy.
Yeah.
Just to show that you are nobility. First wristwatch we know of is made by Abraham Louis Breguet and was given to Charlotte Bonaparte, the Queen of Naples.
Wow.
So, but it wasn't widespread until start 1800s. The Americans came over the whole mechanization, standardization of parts, and so on. So that actually democratized that everyone could have.
You're telling me that the Swiss wasn't first?
No.
I'm terribly sorry, Switzerland. This is, I know it's a hard blow for you, but if we skip a couple of steps here and go straight to the railways, and I know that you have one absolute crazy example of the Swiss railway watch.
No, well, I was trying to find my, but the railroad watches was a standard made by the Americans for a quality standard for pocket watches.
Yeah.
But that actually came with, the standardization came with the telegraph.
Yes, of
and
course,
the electric clock, because then you could have clocks at stations, crossroads, all like that, with a synchronized time signal.
Yeah, because that matters, or else you can't have a timetable.
Yeah, again, there was some pretty bad accidents when, well, the train driver's pocket watch had stopped for 4 minutes and then started again. And yeah, that's the problem. Didn't turn out well. So there you got railroad time, which was like, I guess, the first example of how to do it on a larger scale. Yeah,
because this really goes very well to what we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes, because this has to do with synchronization of clocks over huge distances, and again, precision almost over a complete country.
Yeah, because that was the first time you were actually in need of that kind of precision.
Exactly.
So then the whole thing, I think you're still allowed to call it master clocks and slave clocks, where actually, like on the railway station, you can see the second hands go up to 12, and it stops, and the minute hand goes.
Exactly.
So actually, I brought a watch that does actually, but that's not a true railway watch, but so all the clocks were synchronized, yeah.
Because if we go a bit further, because we have some slides here, can we get one of the first slides? Because now we're going one step further. This is still ancient times. It's 55, and this is the the first atomic clock that they basically made. It's not very pocket watchy typical, but it entered a new era of precision. And suddenly you had things like you could measure down to the nanosecond.
Yeah.
And of course that beats the railroad watch a bit.
Yeah. I can't even remember the deviation on an atomic clock, but it's for all purposes not measurable. And it is measured, and they actually installed a leap second because to derive that. So the Germans actually started broadcasting atomic time, compensated time signals in '59.
Oh, really?
DCF 77 in Mainflingen, just outside Frankfurt.
Wow. Well,
which
trust the precision.
Actually, we follow UTC +1.
But still, we are not talking about the Swiss.
No. We will talk about the Swiss, Thomas. We will never forget the Swiss.
Of
I'm
course.
wearing a Swiss watch.
That's very good.
Yeah.
We have one more slide because, you know, just to bring us down to today, and this is basically a laboratory version of an optical atomic clock.
Yep.
Based on strontium, and this is by rumor or actually fact, this is the most accurate thing they have right now, even though they're trying to even make more accurate clocks, because we have one mystery guest, which I love to introduce as our guest here together with Peter Marius, and that of course is Thomas Kernen, which brings us live from Switzerland. And Thomas, there you are. It's great to see you.
It's good to see you too.
And you know, one thing that I must mention, you have been instrumental, which is not a pun actually, in actually bringing about the new time standards, to bring those standards into the broadcast community. It started with the EEE 1588 standard, which then turned into the ST 2059 version 2. And you've been participating and co-writing that standard. And I must say, we're in awe, Thomas.
Thanks. Well, it's a team effort as always, and yes, maybe because I'm Swiss, I sort of ventured down that route and decided that I would join the group that was working on defining time within the media industry via the SMPTE 2059 effort. And yes, I learned a lot about timing at the same time, incidentally. But what's interesting about what you mentioned about the 1588 standard is it's used across many different industries. Yeah. Originally, it was looking at manufacturing to replace their existing systems from the 60s and 70s to have something that was actually network-based. And then other industries, the telecom industries, use it. Research science, just down the road from where I am in Geneva, the CERN for the LHC use it. They're in the sub-nanosecond precision, of course. And then, yes, of course, in the media space for synchronizing audio and video sources in order to make sure that we minimize issues such as lip sync and make sure that we don't cut in the middle of a picture when we're going from one camera to another in the middle of a production.
Yeah, because that's, again, this goes a bit further than just the typical kind of time frame, because again, as you say, this synchronizes all the signals so that basically you don't have a pixel skew or line skew that we had in the old days. And that demands, of course, quite significant precision as we go from a standard definition to HD, to 4K, and now, of course, 8K or better.
So yeah, so the more pixels we have, obviously the more we want to be cautious of this, but also we're increasing the frame rates at the same time. So, yeah, with higher frame rates, especially for sports, but also for slow-mos, we want to have, cameras, specialized cameras running at 120, 240, or even up to, say, 1,000 frames per second. These all need to be synchronized to make sure that we have the right time code and timestamps on all these flows. And the same with, a set of microphones around a football pitch or whatever it may be. We need to ensure that we have coherence in the sound field, the sound stage. So we make sure that all of this is synchronized.
And that means, of course, when you talk about this, and just talking about this a couple of years ago, you'd think it was science fiction. But then again, frame rates of hundreds of frames, up to 1,000 frames, is not scientific and not science fiction anymore. And then suddenly you are closing in very, very close to the nanosecond kind of time frame measured. So that's pretty awesome.
Absolutely. So, a lot of the work that was done when this was kicked off for bringing, timing over a network, so precision time protocol, into the media space, we were talking about we need an accuracy between different points of about a microsecond. Yeah. But the reality is, if you want to be able to run this over a network and you want to be able to actually send this as IP packets, and you want to use off-the-shelf network infrastructure where you can actually paste those packets properly, we're looking at moving this around in the tens of nanoseconds where possible. And technology today allows you in 2020 to do tens of nanoseconds precision across a network, according to the fact that you've put in the right equipment and you've tuned it as it should be.
That's so true, and you know, I just can't resist. Do you think you can show that fantastic watch you shown us the first time with only the minute? Because I think that,
no, only the hour hand.
Yeah, only the hour hand, of course, and you know that is pretty crazy. And you know, Thomas, think about it. We're talking now the tens of nanoseconds, which is incredible precision. If I told anybody in the video business about this, you know, 20 years ago, they would just laugh me in the face and say that I was just, you know, completely bonkers, because there was absolutely no need for anything like that. Wouldn't you agree, Thomas?
So I agree with you, but at the same time, when we had analog signals, so before, you know, moving everything to digital interfaces, people were compensating for problems related to cable lengths or compensating for different issues. And you had problems that were similar, but they were just in the analog space and people didn't treat them maybe in the same way. And then afterwards we jumped to digital. We didn't need much because we started with SD. Yeah. And then, you know, things got better and better. And we moved up the ramp, and the more pictures and better pictures, well, the better timing we need, and the better timing we get, the better we understand what's going on also. And, you know, people can play better tricks in terms of visual effects and make things look seamless. You know, thank you for reminding me, Thomas, because you're right. We had awesome precision back in the old analog days, and one of my, you know, big things I always mention is that I loved it back then. I'm that old that I remember the good old PAL days, where basically you can actually access a signal in real time. But we're back to that now with the high-end 2110, aren't we? Because again, you have accuracy and you have the real-time aspect coming back into the digital, not the digital delay that we had with SDI, where you have, you know, a couple of frame synchronizers every time we plug in a cable. So it's obviously, I like it. It's a renaissance. What do you think, Peter Marius? It's a renaissance for good old analog in a certain manner.
Well, it is. Being a trained watchmaker, well, you have those miniaturized iPads for your wrist, which are actually...
You mean one of these?
Yeah, one of those.
Oh, yeah.
It's like
miniaturized iPad. Oh,
yeah.
Really? well, it's kind of small.
It's not exactly a new idea.
So
I brought some.
You have something else.
Yeah.
This kind of looks like an iWatch, didn't it?
Yeah, but this is quite handy. It's a Seiko Data 2000.
Oh, the Data 2000.
Yeah.
That's actually a keyboard.
Yeah, with the keyboard. I will not do this now because it takes a while, but you attach the watch to the keyboard.
Holy Moses.
And you can write, I think there's 3 memos.
3 memos?
Yeah, with a total of 2,000 letters.
I mean, I would have loved
that was 1984.
That's too late for me when I took my exams. I should have had that watch.
Yeah,
it's eerily similar, isn't it?
Yeah. Check where Apple says that's original. No, I've seen it before.
I say, well, what do you think, Thomas? Of course, it's a bit digression here, but 84, a complete, you know, iWatch from Seiko, or was it complete? Well, the jury's a bit out there, but yeah, we obviously come a long way. But you know, enough with a lot of this, because one of the key reasons that you're on the show tonight, and why we really want to talk with you, because we can talk hours on timing and precision, and you helped us over the years tremendously to evolve some of our products, especially the VB440 and its ability to do a lot of the measurements. And we don't want to scratching the surface, but understanding time and time synchronization and understanding all devices that is reliant on time, you know, demands that you actually get some information from the device itself, like, you know, a network router, a switch, a frame synchronizer, a camera, a picture switcher, whatever kind of device. We really need to kind of monitor it to see that, is it synchronized? Does it provide you with all the information that, or does it actually have all the information it needs? And that means real-time telemetry. And I know that you have taken a lot of nice initiatives now into getting that standardized.
Yeah, so that's right. So one of the things is, once we had the 2059 standard for PTP and it was available and out there, we had a set of interop events. And one of the things I noticed being part of the team that worked on the different interop events is when we wanted to pull information related to time, people were providing different types of results.
Exactly.
And it was sort of a situation where it was not represented in the same way. I don't mean the data was incorrect, but I mean that there are many different fields that relate to how time is represented and how the information for transferring time is represented and the time scales and so on and so forth. And one of the problems we were facing was every vendor had its own way of doing it, it being an endpoint, it being a network switch or whatever else it is. So one of the recent initiatives in SMPTE, and I say recent, it's already been going on for, I would say about a year and a half, is to come up with a unified data model that allows vendors to represent the different values that relate to time in a common way, so that we have the same default, the same max, the same min, so that if you're commissioning a network or you're testing equipment or you're running through an interop event, everybody has the same format for that data.
Exactly.
And that's the key point, to be able to build and monitor a real network in which timing is fundamental for running these new 2110 IP systems.
No, but it's so valuable, and I love it that you took this initiative, because again, a lot of different vendors do have different interpretations, and that's just how it should be actually. But if you then standardize a lot of these interpretations, and especially as you say, the access to the data and how data is transferred to a collaborative point where you can actually then compare those signals, the value increases dramatically.
Absolutely. So that's the whole thing. It's a real gold mine. What we're trying to do is we're trying to open up a new gold mine and get people to start digging into it and building their own tools or integrating them into their tools, so you can actually start not only understanding how the timing is operating at a nanosecond scale or tens of nanosecond scales, but more to the point, when you have problems, you can see degradation of time before things break. You can understand what the root cause is, where did it happen, and how did it traverse your network over time, obviously. And more to the point, having this unified data model means you can actually compare products. So if you're a customer, it gives you a way of benchmarking things. And if you're a vendor of monitoring systems, well, you're able to provide a whole new set of information which customers over time will start to use. And you can do the graphical representations, you can trigger alarms, whatever it may be. But the point is, there is so much information you want to know about a grandmaster when it switches over in case of a failure. What reference clock is it using? What is the state of that reference clock at that point in time? Lots of people use GPS today or another satellite-based system. Which ones are you using? There are outages. Outages always occur. So you've got to build a system which allows you to understand when those problems occur, but also to be able to trace the root cause in order to prevent further issues.
No, but that's so correct, because again, you're preaching to the choir here, because again, it's all about information. Understanding what's going on is the first cause. If you don't do that, there is no hope to resolve any of the issues ever. So this is just perfect. And it's then of course 2059-15. That's the current proposal, right?
That is correct. So in SMPTE language, we're building an RP, a recommended practice, part of the 2059 series, because it's related to PTP-15 for reasons that I'll explain over a beer, but not here. And more to the point, we're doing something that's quite different than what many people may be familiar with in SMPTE. Is we're going to a public committee draft that was just published last week, which is hosted by SMPTE on GitHub. And thanks to that, everybody can have a preview of this before it's actually get finalized, and more to the point, can provide their comments about this new model, and if they think anything is missing or anything is not clear. So it's not only the technologists that are part of SMPTE that work on the committees that are going to go through this, but it's open to everybody in the industry and other industries, because we're discussing this with other industries that also work with timing, to make sure that we can have something that is as common and universal as possible, so that it can be implemented on the much wider scale, hopefully.
Oh, Thomas, I'm going to cry. This is awesome. This is exactly what we've been waiting for. Great initiative, and everybody should now understand that without no further ado and no hesitation, go to GitHub, get the 2059-15 recommended practice from SMPTE, and download, comment, and start using. I love this, but Oh, we've been talking so much that I'm getting dry in my mouth, and also I like this, but it's time to have a short break with some culture. What do you think, Peter Marius?
Yeah, culture is good.
I believe so, and we have synchronized culture, and we have one of the best. It's our mad musical genius, which do have something special in store for us today. Good. I'm very sad, Thomas, that you're not joining us, because, of course, if you were joining us, I would obviously have champagne for you instead of these boring coffee cups filled with water. So I really, really hope that we can, see face to face. But obviously, we need to discuss this subject more. I'm very, very sorry that we don't. I promise you, we're going to make a program which will last hours, and we'll discuss it to the detail. What do you think, Thomas? Are you up for it?
I'm more than happy, as long as we can have the champagne at the same time.
It'll
make it more interesting, and we can synchronize the bubbles from the champagne with the PTP. Well,
then I have a challenge for you, Peter Marius. If you are the synchronizing master clock for opening of the bottles.
Yeah, I will volunteer for that. Yes, definitely.
Thomas, we have a plan. We're going to create that program, and we're going to do it early next year. And then there is not going to be a single thing about PTP that is not going to be known after that show.
I'm looking forward to it.
And Thomas, thank you for joining us. You are joining us, of course, from Switzerland, which is where you live. And sorry for the jokes about Swiss timing. It is, of course, with you there now, it's the highest precision on the planet. So that's pretty good. So thank you very much, Thomas. It's been a pure pleasure to have you here.
Pleasure was mine. Thank you very much for hosting me.
And of course, I want to thank you, Peter Marius. It was a pure pleasure. You brought some nice goodies.
Yeah.
That was very nice to watch.
I'll bring some proper Swiss watches next time when Thomas is here.
That's very true. That's very true.
So
but don't forget to tune in next Tuesday. We'll be back with some groundbreaking stuff as always. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. In the meantime, have an amazing rest of the week, and see you next time.
Goodbye.